what I wrote.
As it seems.
We're going to start a few minutes late. We're just waiting for the two people that are coming.
Apparently they're in the building, so they're just trying to.
Oh, are they? Okay.
Yeah, they're just trying to move them in.
This is an Eyewitness News special presentation. Back to school, academic recovery.
All right, good evening. Welcome to Eyewitness News, a special town hall back to school, academic recovery. Thank you for joining us. I'm Michelle Charlesworth.
And I'm Mike Marza. It is that time of the year again, back to school time. So much excitement and trepidation in some ways, some anxious energy. Both the parents and the students have so many questions and a lot of emotions. So what we've done with the help of our staff here at Eyewitness News, we've gathered a panel of experts, educators and leaders, all from the New York City public school system, the Department of Education, to help us lay out what's ahead for the big school year as we approach what could be a really exciting time for so many people.
Absolutely. And we have also asked you, parents out there, for your questions for this distinguished panel. Get some answers tonight. But first, before we get started, here's the president and general manager of WABC-TV and Eyewitness News, Mary Lou Galvez.
Thank you, Mike and Michelle. I want to personally welcome each of you here in our studio and our viewers joining us online for our Back to School Town Hall. I also want to thank our esteemed school's chancellor, David Banks, and the entire leadership team with the New York City Department of Education for helping bring this town hall together. As we embark on what we know will be another successful school year, we wanted to provide another forum for parents and you to discuss what's ahead for the New York City Public Schools, and to also take a closer look at some of the issues and concerns parents and students might face in the coming school year. There's always excitement in the air during back to school time. Our children get to meet their new teachers and reconnect with old classmates, while parents eagerly look forward to our children facing new challenges and gaining new confidences. We all know that a good education is the foundation for all paths in life. And we thank all of our educators for the heroic job that they do every day. Now it's my pleasure to announce our school's chancellor, David Banks.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity for us to be here. I want to thank Mike and Michelle as well for this opportunity to really speak to our community, speak to our families all across the city of New York, and to say, welcome back. We had a great summer. I hope that everyone had an opportunity to enjoy themselves this summer and to get away and just take some good time. We had a phenomenal Summer Rising program this year. Over 110,000 students had an opportunity to engage in really proactive, positive activities, to learn and to have a lot of fun. And that's what the summer should be all about. But got a news alert. The summer is over, and we are back to school, and we are excited, and I think it's going to be a great, great year. Happy to be joined by so many of the leadership from our New York City Public Schools office. Going to hear and talk a little bit about some of the exciting things that we're doing this year. But I want you to remember our theme, our overarching theme is bright starts and bold futures. We want to ensure that all of our kids are able to read on grade level. So there's going to be a lot of work that we're doing this year around reading. So kids, get ready. We want to make sure that everybody develops into confident, strong readers. You need that if you want to be successful in everything else that you want to do. We'll be talking about that. And ultimately, we want you to be able to have great futures, bold futures, wonderful opportunities for yourselves as you get older and you pass through high school and head out into the real world. So that's what the experience is for all of us here. Thrilled to be here. Thank you, ABC, for providing this opportunity. Let's get going.
Let's get going. All right, and thank you, sir. We also want to thank the panelists for being with us. Please introduce yourselves. Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Donica Rux, and I am the Deputy Chancellor for the Division of School Leadership. Pleasure to be here.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Kenita Lloyd, Deputy Chancellor for Family and Community Engagement and External Affairs. Great to be with you this evening.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mark Ramperson. I'm the Chief of Safety and Prevention Partnerships. Nice to be here.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Emma Videra. I'm our Deputy Chancellor for Operations and Finance, and happy to be here.
Hello, everybody. Dan Weisberg, First Deputy Chancellor. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Carolyn Quintana. I'm Deputy Chancellor of Teaching and Learning. It's a pleasure to be here with you this evening.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Kara Ahmed, Deputy Chancellor for Early Childhood Education. I'm thrilled to be here.
Excellent. Thank you so much. That was a great roll call. Everybody's present and accounted for. We want to dive right in with a lot of topics that are top of mind for so many parents as we begin this back to school year, including this potential school bus driver strike. It's really gaining a lot of attention. How is the system going to handle this? It really could impact about 80,000 students. And Governor Hochul earlier today really described it as this, that a bus strike could be cataclysmic.
Could be. The good news is the union says buses will be running normally for the first 2 days of school. So that's tomorrow and Friday, Thursday and Friday. Everything will be normal, but a strike isn't off the table. I do want to direct this question to the Director of Operations, Emma Videra. What can you tell us about contingency plans you might have in place? Some parents are afraid that even the contingency plans are going to mean that they're going to be late to work because they have to accompany the kids on the buses or subways. Please address that.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for the question, and glad to get straight to this because appreciate that it's on folks' minds, and it's a great opportunity for us to talk directly to families. So, as you said, there will not be a strike on for the next couple of days as school opens. But there is still a possibility of a strike later in the school year. Conversations are ongoing between the union that represents some of our drivers and the bus companies. This is not a dispute with the city. It's a dispute between bus companies and the union that represents some of them. Those conversations are ongoing. We're very hopeful that a strike will be averted, as it would be a real hit for our students and families, particularly our most vulnerable students, our students with disabilities, our students in temporary housing, and our students in the foster care system, who we are most likely to bus. We do have contingency plans in place that we've been working on for about a month now. They include Metro cards for all impacted students and their parents. So both the student and a family member will get a Metro card to be able to take their student to school, as well as for the family member adult to go on to their next stop. So extra rides for the parent or grown-up. And then for our most vulnerable students, our students in temporary housing, students with disabilities, students in the foster care system, we'll also be providing free rideshare, prepaid up front, so they don't have to put out any money out of pocket, as well as reimbursement services if there's another way they want to take their student to school and be reimbursed. So that is what we are hoping to provide to students and families. It will still be disruptive, and that's what we can do.
So really, rideshare would be like you have a card or some way to pay for Uber or something like that? Is that what you're talking about?
Exactly. It's not even a card. Families will be able to access a code through their New York City Schools account. They'll get it directly. They'll book the car. The car will show up for them. They'll never see a bill. The car will see the bill, and the car will take them to school. And that'll be available, again, to those most vulnerable student populations.
Do they have to apply for that, or does that come to them automatically?
If they're in one of those student groups, if they're students with disabilities, temporary housing, and foster care, it comes to them automatically. And we're actually already in the process of both notifying impacted families that they will be impacted if this happens, as well as students eligible for these additional options, that the options that'll be available.
Such a big deal. I know you'll be closely monitoring those negotiations, and we'll see what happens. Is something else that's been in the headlines, of course, for months now, as New York City continues to find ways to accommodate the thousands of people seeking asylum here in New York, and this crisis also impacting New York City schools. We talk about the families arriving. We've seen the Port Authority, flooded with these buses that arrive, and you see the kids pour out, and of course, those kids need some place to learn. We're talking about hundreds of new students who are currently in temporary housing right now.
We want to start with Chancellor David Banks. This is for you. Some of the questions that we've received from parents about this situation. The new students who've just enrolled this year, we're hearing the number is 500, but we also heard that it was more than 19,000 last year at the end of the last school. So in May, I guess, it had come up to about 19,000.
Sure.
Could you catch us up with the numbers we're looking at and how ready you are to address that?
Sure. So I think it's important to know that as we closed out the last school year, we were about 18,500 students who we had actually enrolled, many of whom are migrant families. And I want to just give a special shout out to all of our educators around the city. They did a phenomenal job of welcoming these families, the students and their families, through what we call Project Open Arms. And it has been extremely successful. If you want to see the best of what New York City Public Schools is all about, Project Open Arms is what it is. Our parents, our kids themselves, they wrapped arms around their newest classmates and really make sure that the kids had a great school experience. I'm very, very proud of what everybody in New York City Public Schools has done. Since that time, since the beginning of the summer, we've had now over 2,500 more. So the numbers are increasing every day, but we feel more than prepared to bring these kids in. We've got many of them already enrolled and ready to go as school opens up tomorrow. We're continuing to hire more teachers. We will have enough teachers with the requisite licenses to make sure that all of these kids are getting everything that they deserve. And we are there as the Chancellor's office to provide the additional supports to our districts and to our schools. It's going to be a great year, and we're going to make sure that all of our kids get everything that they need.
Now, Chancellor, you mentioned that you're employing teachers that have the licenses, but Governor Hochul made a point earlier today talking about a lot of these students. It's not just Spanish-speaking services that they need, other languages too. Are you confident that you'll be able to provide the educators to present in whatever language you need to present in?
You know, it's interesting. We're having a press announcement tomorrow morning. We'll be together with the mayor, with the head of the United Federation of Teachers, and we have a special announcement that we'll be making tomorrow morning that will help to address some of this issue. And that's why I'm confident in saying we have the educators, we will have the educators, we will not have a shortage. We will be able to meet this moment.
But, Chancellor, this is a perfect opportunity right now. You don't want to make the announcement, right? We're all here.
You're not going to get me in trouble with the U of T.
What about where the students are right now? We mentioned the arrivals at the Port Authority. We've seen that. We've covered that. Are the students spread out throughout the 5 boroughs?
Yeah, they're spread out across the 5 boroughs. That's one of the challenges that we have is that many of the kids are actually concentrated in up to about 5 different districts around the city. You see, you place students into schools based upon where these temporary shelters are that the students are living. You don't want to have somebody in a shelter in the Bronx and send them to a school in Queens. So you want to place them close by to where the shelters are. But that can have an undue impact on some of the schools that are close by. So we've been working really hard throughout the summer to mitigate for that, spread them out a little bit further out so that no one school has to absorb, more than their fair share of new students. We want every one of our schools to be successful. So we've been working really hard at that. I want to give a shout out to Melissa Ramos, who's my chief of staff, who's also led this work on Project Open Arms. She's done a great job together with her team to make sure that we're ready.
Everybody vaccinated? I know a lot of parents are wondering about that.
Well, I'll tell you about the vaccinations. You know, every child, even students who've already been living here, get up until 14 days from the time that they're enrolled to have their full vaccinations. If you're coming from another country, like many of these students are, they get up to 30 days. So that's the law. We're complying with the law, and we'll make sure to keep all of our kids safe.
And that's a federal law. Okay.
State law.
State law. I thought the immunizations were federal, no? Okay, well, state law. Okay. All right.
It's a combination.
Gotcha. All right. What about the new programs? You talk about Bright Futures, right? Bright Starts.
Bright Starts, yes.
For the New York City public school students. Talking about specifically reading.
Yes.
Are these kids in general, and we're talking about 3rd, 4th grade, because that's a critical time, that's pivotal, where you want them to be in terms of their reading level? You want them to be average? Are they there yet? You want them to be beyond that?
Let me tell you something, and I'm so glad you asked this question. There's nothing more important that we're doing in the New York City public schools. 51% of the students that attend New York City public schools are not proficient in reading. 64% of black kids, 63% of Latino students are not proficient in reading. That should be wholly unacceptable. And it's not just a New York City issue, it is in fact a national issue. Did you know that in the city of Detroit, 91% of the kids in Detroit fundamentally cannot read? And so we as a nation should be outraged by that. We are sufficiently outraged in New York. That's why we're doing something about it. It's called NYC Reads, and it's being led really by 2 deputy chancellors here, Dr. Rux and Carolyn Quintana. They're leading this work because it starts much earlier than 3rd and 4th grade. We have to ensure that every student is on grade level no later than the 3rd grade. And I have great hope that many of our kids are going to be reading by the time they're out of their preschool programs and 3K. And I think we can do that. And we've started this work. I'd like for Dr. Rux to just talk a little bit more about why that is, because it is extremely important.
Literacy is the heart and soul of what we do in education. Getting our kids to learn how to read is our job. And what we've done is, for many years, we have equipped teachers with a floor plan, a playbook that is not working for our children. So what we've done is we've revamped what we're doing with teachers and how we're doing it with teachers. Literacy and reading is at the heart of what teachers are doing, and therefore we're investing a lot of time, energy, and resources into developing our teachers. We are ensuring that teachers have the right playbook, which is the right curriculum that they will put in front of our children each and every day. Far too many times I would go into schools and what I would see is children with tasks in front of them that are not grade appropriate. And if they don't have tasks that are grade appropriate, they're not going to be able to learn how to read and write and be successful individuals. And so we've decided to have 3 different curriculum. We vetted the 3 curriculum, and each of our superintendents have had an opportunity to engage their communities in selecting a curriculum that will work for them. We're starting this effort off with 15 of our districts, including some of our District 75 classes. And through the selection of the curriculum, they've engaged parents, they've engaged their teachers, they've engaged the broader community. Now we're at a point where training was pivotal. And so what we've done is we've ensured that the teachers, the principals, and leaders have been trained in the curriculum that we are using across the district. We've had intense professional development, and I can speak to that because part of what we did was we vetted the professional development that the teachers were engaged in. We wanted to ensure that that the professional development was sufficient, that it was targeted, and it met the needs of our students. That took a while, to be quite honest with you. And through our professional development efforts, we collaborated with the UFT and other partners to ensure that we were meeting the needs of teachers across the entire system.
No, that's a great point. And to that point, to learn a little bit more about these exciting new programs, let's bring in Eyewitness News reporter Crystal Cranmore, because you've been looking at all these new initiatives. What did you discover?
Well, I mean, it's a new year, and that means a lot of exciting things for students, not just academically, but in the form of mental health.
New York City, more than half of our students are not on grade level.
New York City public schools are starting a new chapter this year when it comes to literacy. Students will be learning to read through old school phonics.
Teach them to sound out words, teach them to decode complex letter combinations, and build them into confident readers who look at a book, a long paragraph of complex words, and they're not intimidated.
City leaders launched New York City Reads in May, a renewed focus on reading and learning basic algebra. Educators say the initiative will streamline and enhance decades-old curricula. The city says it's committing $35 million to train teachers to implement the program. With these new academic changes, also comes a push for students' mental health.
We teach them algebra, trigonometry, and history and English and all of those things that they could be prepared to get a job. But we don't teach them how to be emotionally intelligent.
Think of positive things. Students in pre-K through 12th grade can expect to take 2 to 5 minutes of mindful breathing practice in school every day. Teachers were trained on techniques earlier this year.
The pandemic was not the first trauma that our kids have faced. And newsflash, it will not be the last.
Instead of having bullets, we will have breath. Instead of having violence, we will have balance. We must deal with the stress that our scholars are dealing with every day.
And educators say this mindful breathing initiative is the first Yoga Alliance approved yoga and mindfulness program in a public school system nationwide, just a slice of what the Department of Education is doing to prepare students both academically and emotionally for the future. Michelle and Mike.
I mean, Crystal, thank you. I think we need to employ that here at Eyewitness News and the breathing, and we can all sort of, take that in. It's so important to be centered as we tackle a lot of these serious issues.
Exactly. All right, so we talked about reading and the levels of reading.
Yes.
There is a question from one of the parents that we want to go to. Why are students in 4th and 5th still struggling with reading and writing? What are you doing differently this year? I know you talked about Hooked on Phonics, which we all learned using. Is that right? Phonics was back in the day. We all learned how to read with that. It gets you reading fast, sounding things out. When the reading scores come up, do we see math scores come up as well?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Yep.
And what would you say to parents who have kids going into kindergarten? Read, read, read. You can't stop. Read to them before they go to kindergarten. Get them reading.
Absolutely. And our Deputy Chancellor, Ahmed, what would you say as they're coming into the earliest grades and in preschool as well? What would you say?
Read, read, read. Talk, talk, talk to your children. Building that oral language, building vocabulary, those are all indicators of early success in reading. And so that's really setting children up in a strong, strong, rich foundation so that we're not playing catch up in 3rd grade. And so that we are actually building that foundation for children to develop strong literacy skills, strong reading skills, strong language skills.
And math comes up with it, right? When you have self-confidence as a student, you can tackle anything.
Absolutely. And so a lot of this is about building literacy development and language development and ultimately the reading development. But so much of it begins with social emotional learning and social emotional development. And that begins in our earliest years. And so if we can build that confidence in young children, we are setting children up for a wonderful, successful future.
I love that. Glad you hit that on the head. The confidence is so important. I even see it with my young kids. When they feel like they've accomplished a task, like learning how to read or something like that, everything else falls into place and it's so exciting. More great questions from parents. Listen to this.
The after-school programs in most of these schools in District 29, they're not free, and a lot of the parents can't afford them. Why are they not free?
So I guess I'm going to present that to you first, Chancellor. Why aren't they free?
Well, I'm not sure the specific programs that she's talking about because all the programs that are really run through New York City Public Schools are free programs.
I think she was talking about not to interrupt, but I think she was talking about the after-school programs in her particular area, and it does vary by school.
Well, but parents should not be charged for programs that are happening in our public schools. So if they are, that's something that would be news to me. I would certainly look into that. But much more broadly, Dan, you want to just talk about some of the work we're doing with our after-school programs, why it's so critically important to keep our kids engaged, our Deputy Chancellor?
Yes, happy to do that. You know, this is a priority for this chancellor and this mayor. They talk all the time. If we had the resources, if we had the funding, we would have universal after school. And this is a goal for this administration to make it universal in every single school in every neighborhood. But we do have after school programs that, as the chancellor say, are free of charge. In most of our schools, we're trying to add them all the time. And summer is part of that. We just had, as the chancellor said, a very successful Summer Rising program with 110,000 students who got academics, but also got enrichment, got to have a lot of fun during the summer when mom and dad were working. And so we're trying to build on that. But that is one of the areas where it's a resource constraint issue, where we don't get funded from the federal government, from the state government, to provide universal after school, but this is something we're going to be working towards as a goal.
Can I just ask about SAT prep, AP exam prep, ACT prep, and stuff like that? Is that free in the afternoons for kids? That's something that's top of mind for juniors right now, and sophomores too. Like,
Yep.
What do I have ahead of me, and how can I get better at this? We know that if they're prepared, they do better, and that's how you get scholarships.
Absolutely.
We do indeed provide SAT prep. We actually provide universal PSAT, which is a really helpful pre-test essentially for 10th graders, and we make that universal and free, and you can take that in the school that you go to. So that's really important. And we do provide, the schools provide preparation, test prep. Now listen, there's a lot of private providers too, so parents are availing themselves of these private programs. What we want to try to do is reach the kids whose parents maybe don't have the means to pay for these private providers, and we're doing quite a bit of that already.
And they're also not-for-profits like New York Cares and other organizations.
Absolutely.
They have tutors available for folks.
Boys and
So
Girls Club
speak
and many
up,
of the CBOs.
Right? All the
Yes.
kids speak up, and parents too.
Yes.
Take advantage.
Yeah, well, you mentioned preparing for tests or something like that. It creates a lot of anxiety for kids, and just school in general creates a lot of anxiety. And I think we're and maybe, you know, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on this. Maybe we're just diagnosing it more now. We're being able to point and say, okay, this is anxiety we're talking about. How do we as parents address that on the eve of a new school year? How do we say, this is what you're feeling, and walk them through that? I know the breathing exercises were great. What are some of the vocal things that we can go through?
Sure. I get giddy at the start of the school year as well, so I get those butterflies in my stomach too, and a little bit of that anxiety that goes with it. And both as a parent, as an educator, and as a former leader of a school, really thinking about, we want to be careful with how we coping, and those coping mechanisms and strategies that students use sometimes may look like behaviors that we are alarmed about. And we want to be really careful that we're not raising the alarm for all of those normal coping behaviors. It's important to show emotions. But if you see changes in student behavior, patterns, kids who maybe used to be social and are now retreating, kids who don't want to be around other people, right? Or who were doing well academically and are not, sometimes it's anxiety, other times it could be frustration and difficulty actually engaging with the content. We find oftentimes, actually it's part of New York City Reads, right, that when students are struggling with literacy, they'll often act out as part of not being able to engage with the reading. So we want teachers and leaders to pay attention to these behaviors, and parents should too. And for parents, a really great tip is not to ask them, how did it go today, because you're going to get a fine, right? But ask them questions about what made you laugh, what was different, what did you teach somebody, what did you learn? Questions that really require engaging in conversation, and that require really talking a little bit about their experience in the classroom.
All right, there you go. All right, so a point of anxiety for any parent. School safety measures. I know that you've made some improvements with that. Talking about that with you a little bit.
Sure.
Mark, why don't you talk about it?
Absolutely. I mean, listen, safety is on the forefront of all of our minds, right? From our principals, paraprofessionals, teachers, custodians, school safety agents, and most of all, our superintendents who are responsible for ensuring that safety and security is paramount in our schools. This administration doubled down after countless conversations around closing the front doors and locking the front doors of our schools. This chancellor and the mayor, they put their money where their mouth is. They said that this is an initiative that we're going to put forward. So this year, we're introducing our door locking system. This will allow our schools, after morning entry is complete, to allow for us to lock the front door of our schools and control visitor access. This is not about keeping parents or others out of our building. This is ensuring that everyone who enters our building has the authority to do so and are coming into our buildings for the right reasons. And that is to help support our young people, meet with our educators, and there's nobody coming into our schools to do harm. We are excited about this initiative that will be complete in the 25 school year, but we are starting off with about 744 of our little guys, our kindergarten to 5th graders, and we are aggressively meeting the mark to finish at least that portion of this work by the spring 24.
But nothing more important to us than safety. We've got to make sure that when parents send their kids to school, number one thing is they want to make sure that we're keeping their kids safe. This is another measure that's meant to address that.
And beyond the financial constraints of just rolling this out, what are some of the other obstacles that you're facing or challenges to get it across the system?
So I don't know that there are many challenges, right? The challenges are the unknown, right? What if, right? And if we stand around and we sort of go deep into the what ifs, we'll never get the work done, right? We are already knee deep into this. We are putting these in our doors. We are going to have some hiccups here and there, I am sure, right? But we are prepared. Every one of our schools has a school safety agent at the front door of our schools, right? Every agent is trained, every staff member is trained, and we're excited about this new initiative in our schools.
Okay, all right. What about dismissal and start of school? What's going on with that?
Yeah.
I know there are some changes. So
Yeah.
you don't want anybody to be late.
No, we don't want anybody to be late.
Right.
And we want them to get to school safely. And that's one of the reasons that we launched Project Pivot, which was a way in which we've now engaged over 250 community-based organizations. These are the groups that know those communities really well, and they're providing safe passage, tutoring, they're mentoring kids. We recognize that it takes a village to raise a child. And if you want to do that, it's not just the principal and the teachers in the school, but it's the community members as well. Schools are part of communities, and we want to make sure that we are true to that. And that's why Project Pivot is so important. And so we've called on the community to be more engaged, to get off the sidelines, to get into the game, and really make a difference in the lives of all of our kids. We're really excited about the Project Pivot and the way that we're expanding that work this year.
And in the same vein that the Chancellor speaks about the community, right? We talk about the village. Well, as part of that village, one of the things that we are doing is we are asking the village. We are sounding the alarm, the entire village to come into the school community and help us ensure safety and security in and around our schools. That means our business owners. That means our community partners, our faith-based organizations, and every one of our parents. Right? We want to make sure that this partnership is clear and complete. It is not enough to say to New York City Public Schools, what are you doing to keep our children safe? We're doing the work. Kids feel safe in school. We need them to feel safe as they travel to and from school and when they're in their respective communities.
But definitely check with your school to make sure it starts at 7 or 8 or 7:30 or.
Oh, yeah.
I know that some of the parents are like, what? Okay, but you know, and a lot of this is going to help people too.
Yeah, no, you got to check. We don't have the same exact start time for every school in New York City, so it's a wide range. And so just check with your principals. That's why tomorrow is so exciting. There's a lot of information that they're going to get as well, and just make sure that you are very clear about the time that school starts and when the school day ends. So you're there to also to pick up your child at the appropriate time as well.
You know, a lot of parents are looking at each other right now like, did you get that email? What time? What time is it?
And they should have gotten it.
They're right.
The school principals are responsible for making sure they're communicating with the parents of their students, and they certainly ought to know what time school starts.
That's a good start.
That's a good beginning.
It's a good beginning. And we want to talk about another important issue in this town hall, this back-to-school town hall, students with learning disabilities and the resources that are now available to help them within the New York City public school system.
Yeah, reading and writing, we talked about that. Even speaking can be a challenge for students with learning disabilities. And that can mean a lack of acceptance among the kids who go to school with them, which can give them feelings of doubt, lack of self-confidence, but there's help.
It's not a great foundation, so you want to be able to build that foundation really, really strongly. Eyewitness News reporter Crystal Cranmore back again. And you spoke to Mayor Adams, who was asked about his own struggle with dyslexia while he was in grade school. He's talked about it a lot and how it impacted him. It was one of the obstacles. What did you learn?
Definitely. I mean, it was a great interview, a personal interview to Mayor Adams. But I will say that the number of New York City students in special education grew by almost 50% between 2015 and 2019. And I took a look at just how the city is helping students with complex needs and learning disabilities.
The smiles and laughter of 8-year-old Gabe are enough to brighten any room.
He's very social, very lovable.
And in this room at PS15 in Red Hook this year, Gabe and other students with intellectual and multiple disabilities will be learning social and academic skills alongside their general education peers.
The goal of ACES Access ICT is to provide a truly inclusive, integrated schooling model for these students who've been historically excluded.
This pilot initiative is one of the New York City Department of Education's specialized programs that started in 2017. When it came to choosing this or sending Gabe to a separate citywide district just for students with complex needs, it was a no-brainer for Nancy Harris.
That is a good feeling, to know that my son is safeguarded, to know that he's in an environment that he's happy. In the morning, he wants to get up and come to school.
The Adams administration has dedicated more than $100 million to 280,000 students with individualized education programs. The mayor has also taken a lead on creating a special program for children with dyslexia. He bolstered the screening process, and the city's adding 100 more interventionists this year. In a one-on-one interview with the mayor, he tells me it's personal.
That traumatizing impact of believing you're dumb, not knowing what could be done, and watching my mom as she helped me struggle through trying to read.
Adams says of the 500,000 students who have been screened, 1,500 have been flagged for potential dyslexia and will get intensive support. Meanwhile, a new report by the City Comptroller's Office revealed the Department of Education failed to deliver mandated special education services to thousands of students, even as special education claim spending surged tenfold between 2012 and 2022. The report also found recommendations for services in predominantly Black and Hispanic communities were less likely to be fully provided by the Department of Education.
We had 9 years of failure. We've had 19 months of correcting a ship that was moving in the wrong direction.
The report really reflects the conversations we've been having with the Comptroller's Office and with our community as a whole. And we are, for that reason, scaling and sustaining those programs that we know really work.
I think that the work that we're doing here is providing that to children who the system has long forgotten.
Back at PS15, educators are including 5th graders this fall.
I believe that it's the birthright of every child to know what it's like to light up a room.
And the Department of Education also says $73 million also supports new specialized programs for students with an autism classification, plus services in the most underserved schools in the Bronx. Mike and Michelle.
Just so fascinating to see what's being done, and it was a great reflection on that. Though I got to go back to what you said, that report. The number of New York City school students in special education grew by almost 50% in those 4 years. Chancellor, why is that?
We've had 183,000 students now in our school system that have some form of an IEP, or otherwise a designation, that there's some challenges that they have to face. You know, but I'm most proud, I think, of the work that we're doing to respond to those students that have those needs and those challenges. Some of these issues we've seen made manifest throughout the pandemic. But the work that we've been doing and the work that our team has been doing to try to rectify this and to make sure that those kids are getting all the supports that they need has been critically important. And Carolyn Quintana has been leading that work together with our team. You want to just talk a little bit about some of the expansion of some of the work, the ASD Nest programs, the Horizon programs, and others?
Absolutely, and that's a little bit of what I mentioned when I was in that conversation with the mayor. Really important for us to build off of a foundation that we've already established as successful. So we've made some great strides with programs like our ASD Nest program. It takes an opportunity for students who are on the autism spectrum, who are performing at the level of their peers in the general education classes, to be in integrated classes. You saw at PS15 also an opportunity for students to be in an integrated class, or an integrated school rather, where they can have an opportunity to learn in that space and then move into less restrictive settings. And so we want to be sure that we're building out these programs. And so we've got AIMS, ASD Nest, Path, Horizon, and programs that I'm just going to name, but if you go onto our website, you can learn more about each of them, and they're about supporting students with different types of disabilities, whether you're on the autism spectrum, you have an emotional disability, or a learning disability, and even some of the programs that the mayor talked about. So really building out our schools and our settings that are for students who may be struggling with reading and may be at risk for dyslexia. So we want to make sure we're providing the services in our communities. We need to build high quality programs for all of our students and students with disabilities so they can go to school in their local community without having to bust them out elsewhere.
But why so many numbers? I mean, is it earlier diagnosis? I know the mayor's talked about that. Had he only been diagnosed earlier, he might have been mayor. He is mayor. But right. So is it diagnosis? Is it access to health care? Is it the counselors at the school? Is it advocacy by the parents saying, you got to look at my kid one more time? They may need to be checked out. Why do we see? I mean, that's a huge increase.
Explosion, yeah.
Expensive.
So there's a combination of reasons that go into that. And part of that is when we talk about those numbers of students who are being referred for services, we're talking about numbers in our public schools, our non-public schools, and our charters. And so when we talk about those services, it's not necessarily that students are in a program and that number has increased, but that perhaps a singular service, for example, special education, teacher support services, may be increasing. And so because we have those numbers of a specific service increasing, it looks like as a whole. The reality is, though, that our numbers are growing. And part of that is how we're providing students with services early on, and that's part of what you heard Dr. Ahmed talk about as well. If we can intervene earlier, if we provide preventative measures and think about new models that really address students' needs comprehensively, then we reduce the number of students who need that kind of restrictive environment later on. And we can address some of the issues earlier on. The other piece is this big push for reading that the Chancellor has made a priority across the city. We'll address some of that as well. We think about dyslexia that the mayor talked about, works on a spectrum. Students who are at risk may be able to have their needs met through intensive intervention that later on either reduces or eliminates the need to be referred for services. It doesn't mean for everyone, right? But we can begin to chip away at that.
For all students, I know a lot of parents are worried about COVID and what that meant for kids. Some kids jumped ahead. Some kids stayed the same. Some kids slid back. What about addressing that kind of a situation? What's happening with the COVID slide back, as many parents call it?
Yep. So I think a number of things there too, right? And part of that is when we think about schooling comprehensively, we're going to be able to address the needs of students and meet them where they are, and address the needs of teachers who may need to rethink that the way they are providing supports inside of the classroom. And so we've been able to bring in this year high dosage tutoring. We offered opportunities for high dosage tutoring that happened both during the day in the classroom as well as after school. We tried that out in a handful of districts and we'll be expanding that work this year. We also have opportunities, as I mentioned, for, not the opportunities, the screening that is happening across our schools, right? So universal screening from the early years and early childhood on up into high school. That screening gives us information about what types of interventions a child may need. And so really not only providing, I think earlier was mentioned that we've added an additional 100 interventionists to our system, and we've trained folks across our schools so that they have interventionists in place to provide students with those supports, in addition to what teachers are already doing and this new curricular rollout.
What about tutors? I know in my public school, my kids tutor kids who are 2 grades lower than they are.
Yeah.
And it's just volunteering. You got stuff like that going on?
We've got
Are
a
we
number of
expanding
those
those programs?
Dan, you want to talk a little bit about some of the tutoring work that we're doing?
Yes, there's a lot of exciting work around tutoring. That's a piece of the puzzle. It's not the whole thing, but it's a piece of the puzzle. So we've got college students who are coming in and tutoring kids. We've got high school students who are tutoring elementary students. We've got some really interesting, because we can't reach all of our students that way that need help, that are behind. We've got some really interesting AI-based programs that personalize help for students who need it. Here's the thing, Michelle, though. You know, people have focused, rightly so, on learning loss, interrupted learning because of the pandemic. The truth is, we have had a lot of students in New York City and all across the country who've been behind for a long time, and we don't do a very good job of catching them up. So we're really excited about the focus now, because of COVID, on the necessity to get much, much better through the things that Carolyn's talking about at catching kids up. Every single kid is capable of being at grade level and beyond. Brilliance is everywhere in all of our neighborhoods and all of our kids. Opportunity is not. Our job is to make sure, just because a kid may be reading at a 6th grade level in the 9th grade, and we have a lot of kids in those categories, there's absolutely no reason, if we provide that child the right support, that he or she is not going to be at grade level by the time they get to 12th grade.
And to that point, the students that are excelling, one of the most popular programs, G&T, Gifted and Talented, and we have a viewer question here from a parent.
There's nothing available for middle school. I'm being told there's no middle school programs that we can then look at and apply to that are a part of the citywide Gifted and Talented program. So I'm wondering why that is. Why are the kids and parents left to just be on their own trying to find a good academic space for their children from middle school when they've already worked hard and been accepted into the citywide Gifted and Talented program?
Well, let me just say one of the first things is that as we came into this administration, we had a lot of people telling us to get rid of the Gifted and Talented programs. In fact, the prior administration was already making efforts toward eliminating the program. But as we went out around the community and we spoke to families, they said, don't eliminate it, expand it. We want to make sure that we've got more of these programs in our communities. And we sought out to do that, and we have done that. And Q, you want to just talk a little bit about what some of that programming actually looks like and how it's actually meeting the needs of the kids in response to the question from the viewer?
Sure. So I think that there are two parts to that question, right? And part of that is we absolutely expanded not only the Gifted and Talented programs themselves, opening up the entryway through both kindergarten and 3rd grade, but we made sure that in districts where there weren't previously G&T programs, we have those available now. We want to make sure that regardless of your district, that you have access to a program that might be able to challenge you for the type of learner that you are and the kind of environment that you want. In addition, we heard from parents that they wanted to look at some sort of school-wide advancement models that might benefit students in a different way that weren't necessarily G&T, and so we started to do some of that work as well. And so we've been working alongside superintendents in different districts, building out those kinds of models as well. And I think this goes back to the point that I heard the Chancellor make long ago that was about we want to make sure that the system offers lots of different choices for the different learners that we have, what parents see as needs, and what our superintendents and our leaders are going to be able to put forward.
Okay, and brilliance is everywhere, and opportunity is everywhere, and you can catch them up real quick. It is possible. Yeah. So if you're a student out there watching this as well, they've got your back, it sounds like. I'd like to talk about the district's career connected learning program. It's basically what used to be called VOTech courses. Is that correct? That used to be like the on-the-job training in high school. This is for older kids for certain skills. Or is this something that helps kids apply for vocational, for like if they want to be electrical engineers, if they want to be plumbers, beauticians, barbers?
No, it's a little bit of that as well. Yep, and it is what we talk about when we say bold futures. Okay. Making sure that kids know that while they're in school, they're clear about the possibilities, career opportunities for them. So we've done a lot of work in this space. I'm really, really excited about the work. We're expanding on it. Jay Grieve is the person that drives that work for us. Jay, you just want to talk a little bit about that?
I'd love to. Thank you, Chancellor. I'm so excited to explain this topic. This is a really important one for us. And as the Chancellor says, when we're talking about bold futures, career-connected learning is how we're going to get there. And so it's the way that we're going to make sure we can meet our mission that every New York City public school student graduates on a pathway to a rewarding career that's aligned with their passion and purpose, and that they're well on the way to financial and economic security over the long term. That's really important to us and a central goal of what we're trying to do here. So career-connected learning is an educational model. It's one that blends strong academics with the chance to learn about careers inside high school in particular. You get the chance to be getting early career exposure and awareness, the chance for hands-on real-world work experience, to do things like early college credit while you're still in high school, and to earn job-ready credentials. And so one of our key initiatives that we're really excited about that's helping us do this and expand these opportunities across the city is Future Ready NYC. And so Future Ready is a program that is in a number of high schools this year. In the coming school year, it's going to be in 100 high schools, which we're really excited about across every single borough. And it's targeting those kinds of occupations and industries where we know there's a lot of opportunity, but maybe not all kids are getting access to those. So fields like technology, think about cybersecurity, cybersecurity, software development, healthcare, important and critical occupations for the city like nursing. And it's providing students the chance to get that real-world hands-on experience, and in later grades through opportunities like apprenticeships and internships to ensure that they are not just learning, but they're actually earning while they're doing it, which we know is so important.
And I would imagine, too, there's an increased interest, too, with the world changing and everything else. So that's really interesting to see how that plays out. Thank you. We do want to go to Staten Island now. Jill has a question, and she wants to see what you think about this. Here it is. Can students who attend high school, whose school does not offer, for example, health services or mental health services, seek services in another school? And if not, will that be considered in the future? And how's it all going to work?
Danica, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes. I'm excited about this. One of the things that we've been responsive to is this issue. And we are excited about launching teleservices, which will provide students with who want mental health support to be able to call in and get the services that they need, to have someone to talk to. When you are a middle school or high school student and you're in the middle of a crisis, it's so important that you have access to someone that you can readily call and get someone on a call who can support you and talk you through what you're going through. And so I am so excited about this because this is something that we have not been able to do and that we are excited about launching in the near future.
Is that 24/7? Because I know a lot of kids, gosh, they run into a horrible situation. It's 9 o'clock at night. They're being bullied on their phone, and they need to talk to somebody. There is a mental health emergency happening right then. How does that work? Are they then able to use the same phone that's going after them?
It is an actual line that they will be able to call in and to get support with right away, whenever they need it. We know that that is important, that they have access at the point of a crisis. And so that is critical.
In real time. It's critically important. That's the reason why we're excited that this is going to be rolling out in the coming weeks. So we're excited about that. But we also have over 5,000 social workers already and guidance counselors in our schools who play an important role every single day in meeting the needs of our kids and where they are. And we also have access to mental health clinics outside of schools, as well as school-based mental health clinics for hundreds of our schools across the city, serving hundreds of thousands of kids already. We're going to continue to expand on that work. So many of our kids are really struggling with these mental health challenges. We're seeing it as a society. And so we're really doing everything we can to try to meet the need.
Now, you say you have the services. Are people seeking those out?
Oh, absolutely. When the mayor and I travel and we visit schools, the two things that the kids talk about the most are keeping them safe and wanting to have even more mental health supports. And so that's why we're trying to meet that need. They see it sometimes not even just for themselves, but they see that need for their classmates who they also are seeing who struggle. And so building those trusting relationships is critically important. And sometimes just trusting relationships with teachers who may not be mental health counselors themselves, but they know the kids, they love the kids, and the kids have a great relationship. Every child needs to have a great relationship with at least one teacher in that building or one person in that building who, in a time of trouble, they can turn to. That's what schools should be all about. And that's what we're working to continue to build on.
All right. We have another question from a viewer. Thank you, sir.
So how can we start introducing second and third languages earlier on versus high school when it's pretty much too late, their mind's already comfortable, and nobody wants to learn a language that late? Why can't we start doing it in second, first grade?
Q?
I absolutely agree.
She meant that too.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a multilingual myself. It's really important, actually. It's good for your brain. It's good for your body. It's good for the community. And so we really want to make sure that kids are learning multiple languages. If you travel outside of the United States, that's the norm. And so we actually have a fantastic team who has put together a pathway to multilingualism, and we'll begin to do much of that work already this year. And so we've been building out dual language programs, and those are incredibly intensive programs. We'll continue to do that work. We're building out our bilingual programs as well. We started 33 of those last year. We're opening 44 additional programs this year. And then for this coming year, we're also going to begin building out in a number of different ways, more opportunities to take those, what we used to call foreign language courses, right? And so we want kids to be able to take those languages, and because we can't always offer them right now, not yet, until we get this pathway to multilingualism in place in our own schools, we're building in opportunities to do it virtually so that you have some flexibility in both time and space to be able to take those courses. And we're working with schools to make sure that they understand the value of having multiple language as one of those pathways. So really excited about that. I agree. And we absolutely should start earlier while kids are still developing that ability to process and just maintain language. So yes.
And the great thing also about what Q is saying as well, which applies to lots of other subjects, is the work that we're doing on our virtual learning. Kids don't have to be limited by the teachers that they have in their school, by the choices, of the teachers who are there. If you have a teacher who's teaching a foreign language, but they don't happen to work in your school, you will have an opportunity going forward to get access to those teachers across schools. To me, that's the best use of what technology should really represent. So you're not limited to what's happening within the four walls of your school. The entire city of New York really ought to be an opportunity for you and have a chance to get access to great teachers no matter where they are.
How many students have signed up this school year for the virtual learning? Do we have a ballpark?
What's the ballpark that we have?
So we have 31 different courses, and they're all almost at capacity. So I'm not sure the exact numbers, and we'll have that as soon as the school year.
People like it?
People like it.
They're lining up.
Yes, absolutely. And, in terms of languages, we have Mandarin. We've got the whole range of Spanish all the way up into native speaker APs. We've got French, right? We've got some opportunities that we may not have otherwise. But there are classes that are art history there's actually a film class. So you can take virtual learning classes of all kinds. We also are opening this year, and perhaps, I don't know if, Dan, you want to talk a little bit more about this, but 2 virtual learning schools that start tomorrow. So we're really excited. We were able to pilot that work this past year, and we're actually opening those doors. We have folks in the room who are actually part of that work, opening those doors tomorrow, and really excited about that opportunity for students who may need a different space, technically and not, right? To learn that they can actually take advantage of school. There's a hybrid model that has kids in school part of the time and not, and the other school will be completely virtual, including things like esports. And so a real big opportunity for students who may benefit from a different setting.
And is that after school? Is that something that they could do on the weekends? Is it taped? How does it work?
I'm so glad that you said that, because it is all of that. It is opportunities to take these courses during the school day, but it's also opportunities to take courses on the weekends, in the evenings. Just think about that. Opens up just a world of possibilities for our kids. I've often said, why does it have to take 4 years to graduate from high school? If you're prepared to put in the work and take classes on Saturday evenings and Sunday mornings, perhaps, you can finish further ahead of your cohort and get started with your life even sooner. We want to provide as many incentives for our kids who are willing to put in the time, effort, and the energy to move forward, to give them that ability so that they don't have to move at the same pace as everybody else. We all learn differently. We learn at our own pace. You should be able to move quickly and accelerate. This virtual opportunity is going to give us those kinds of opportunities for all of our kids.
How do they sign up? I know you said you're already at capacity for some of them, but what does this entail?
For the courses?
Yeah.
So the virtual learning courses are actually through their schools. Okay. Students can sign up through their school. The schools will offer the courses, and kids can take them and figure out the schedules, depending on what's available and where they go to school. Yeah. The schools themselves go through the regular enrollment process. So there are 2 high schools, and students already applied. So we have about 150 kids in each one for 9th and 10th grades, and we will continue to build as the years grow.
What is the most popular course?
Most popular course, I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and check on that.
I'm curious what the esports, that sounds...
Well, that's actually the virtual school. That one, I'm sure is going to be popular. Yeah. That and lunch, obviously.
And gym, right, yeah.
Exactly,
Recess, right.
exactly. Well, as we head into a new school year, should we lay out the calendar? Because
let's talk about it. There are some important upcoming days on the school calendar. There it is, cue the calendar. Of course, tomorrow's the first day of school, yay, Monday, September 25th. Schools will be closed for Yom Kippur. Evening parent-teacher conferences is very important. They'd love to see your faces. Will be Thursday, September 28th.
Then fast forward to the big breaks. I know it's hard to think about right now, especially with this heat. But yes, winter recess will be December 25th through January 1st. And then spring recess will be April 22nd through April 30th.
Start planning your vacations right now.
I was going to say, wait a minute. That sounds good. Wait. All right. Wednesday, June 26th. School is out for the summer. Last day of school. Last day of class for students. As we Right. Everybody's like, what are you getting in your calendars over here? Wait a minute. You know what this calendar is.
Put Travelocity and Expedia away. Stay with us here. Stay with us. Yeah, it's really been an important conversation. Of course, we could spend all day talking about this stuff. We're so excited. We know the students, these young people are such fundamental aspects how we build this city, especially as we enter a new era. So thank you all for being here and sharing your expertise.
Chancellor, final thoughts?
Our final thoughts, really, I would say to our parents, first of all, thank you. Thank you for entrusting the lives of your children with each and every one of us every day. Reading, reading, reading. I want to emphasize that. That's the message to parents. Making sure that you're reading with your kids, develop a reading routine at home, visit the libraries. Let's make reading the most important thing that we're doing. It is the entry point to all other avenues of success. And I'm just thrilled with this school year. It's the beginning of my second full year as Chancellor. And I couldn't be more excited. I really believe that the best is yet to come. And to the young people, all of our students across New York City, I want to say to them, get ready. This is going to be the best year of your lives. We're going to have a great time. We're reimagining how we even do schools, and we want you all to be confident readers, confident learners, and to have a great year this school year.
And to the teachers, thank you.
Yes.
And the counselors. Mr. Broccoloni told me apply early to college.
Yes.
I never heard of that.
That's right.
We all have somebody. Everybody has a Mr. Broccoloni.
And
Mr. Broccoloni, that's right.
And now you're here.
And you made it here. And our Deputy Chancellor, Kenita Lloyd, as a final message, what word would you also give to the parents and to the kids and the teachers?
Absolutely. Well, first, as you've heard from all of my colleagues here, we are excited, we are prepared, and we're ready to welcome you tomorrow. I want to encourage all of our families to be involved in their school community, whether it's meeting your teacher, knowing your parent coordinator, attending a parent association, or joining the PTA, being in conversation with your citywide and community education councils. We are here to support you, and there are opportunities for leadership and your involvement at every level.
Help us help you.
That's
right?
right.
Yes. Well, thank you, Schools Chancellor.
Yes.
Thank you
My
very
pleasure.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you to all the panelists,
Thank
distinguished.
you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Very important discussion.
Yes, I mean, we're all starting the season, you know, undefeated.
That's right. That's right.
Jets and Giants of the
Let's go
Jets. J-E-T-S.
He has a Mets pen over there. I love it. I'm Michelle Charlesworth. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you all for joining us. I'm Mike Marza. And for Crystal Cranmore and all of us here at Eyewitness News, thanks for watching and have a great first day of school and have an amazing school year.
Yes.